Coming up, Young Americans for Freedom host several events. Then, Iowa Attorney General defends former President Donald Trump.
And the House avoids yet another government shutdown.
All of that and a profile on two candidates aiming to become an Iowa State representative, along with making sure your facts are straight.
Also, where presidents have stopped in Iowa and something for you to consider.
Good evening and welcome to The Update, your home for news and politics.
From the local level to nationwide, we're keeping you up to date. I'm Jordan Tovar.
And I'm Johnny Valtman. And we'd like to start local here in Jordan. You've got Iowa City.
Yeah, it's certainly been a pretty busy week on the campus politics front. University Democrats at Iowa President Estrella Rower Johnson resigned from her position on Monday. And this comes after she, along with two other executives in the organization, signed a statement in support of Palestine, which contained a variation of the controversial phrase, quote, "May every Palestinian be free, from the river to the sea," unquote. And in the past, supporters of Israel have interpreted the phrase as meaning genocide towards Israelis, but those who are pro-Palestine say it means a state where Palestinians can live freely. The post was quickly deleted after the Iowa Democratic Party made a statement condemning the University Democrats' post, and they also called for the resignation of the executives who signed it. IDP Chair Rita Hart said, quote, "Let's be very clear. That is a call for Jewish genocide, and we wholly condemn that offensive language," unquote. Again, as interim president is Kiana Shevling Major until they hold an election on November 27th. And on the opposite end of campus politics, the University of Iowa chapter of the Young Americans for Freedom held a few events this week. They held a vigil for the over 200 hostages taken by Hamas in the attack on Israel. YAF members planted 200 Israeli flags in Hubbard Park to show their support for them. YAF Chair Jasmine Jordan had this to say.
To do this memorial today to recognize and honor the hostages that have been lost in the Israeli-Hamas conflict that has been going on, because we feel like they are very underrepresented and their stories haven't been told.
YAF then hosted a presentation by North Korean defector Yeonmi Park at the IMU Grand Ballroom on Tuesday night. Park is an author, along with having a YouTube channel where she speaks on her experiences growing up in North Korea and her criticisms of the politics there.
And the death from communist regimes are continuing up until 21st century. Slavery officially ended, but the communism didn't. The biggest crime that you can commit in your life in North Korea is criticizing the fat dictators and the Communist Party.
And as I was saying, there's been a lot going on the local politics front, and I can imagine there's been quite a bit going on the state as well.
Yes, Jordan, usually when there's activity here in Iowa City, there's stuff going on around the state, and we're going to bring in Cara Dulin, who has more on what's going on around Iowa.
Thanks, Johnny. And former President Trump's legal battles are not slowing down. Right now, fights are happening over his gag order, which was suspended earlier this month. The court is scheduled to hear oral arguments next week about whether or not the trial judge was justified in imposing it in the first place. 18 Republican state attorney generals filed an amicus briefing asking the court to strike the gag order. One of the co-leaders of this challenge was Iowa Republican Attorney General Brenna Byrd, who called the gag order unconstitutional. Byrd said, quote, "All Americans have the right to free speech, including presidential candidates like President Donald Trump. That right is secured for every American in the Constitution, regardless of whether or not we agree with each other," unquote. Byrd also recently endorsed Trump for the 2024 presidential election. And it seems all the support has bolstered Trump, who went back to criticizing special counsel Jack Smith, which is a move that got his gag order reinstated the last time.
We have deranged Jack Smith. Have you ever heard of him? He's a lovely man. Do you ever see him with the purple little thing? The Trump-hating prosecutor in the case.
Also in D.C. this week, tens of thousands of demonstrators gathered for a march for Israel. One of the attendees was Senator Joni Ernst from Iowa, who joined a bipartisan group of lawmakers supporting Israel in their fight against Hamas. Ernst has been a vocal supporter of Israel since the initial Hamas attacks last month. On Monday, she called for the United Nations to recognize Hamas as a terror organization, and she has visited Israel multiple times since the start of the war. She finished her speech at the march by saying, quote, "God bless Israel," as she rightly defends herself against Hamas and his brutal attacks on Israel. "The United States will always have your back," unquote. Jordan and Johnny, back to you.
Thanks, Cara. And Jordan, with stuff going on around Iowa City and statewide, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some stuff going on around the nation.
That's right, Johnny. And we have DITV's Jayce Bertrand in the newsroom to talk a little bit about that.
Thanks, Jordan. And this Tuesday, the House of Representatives passed a spending bill to narrowly avoid yet another government shutdown. However, the bill still has to pass through the Senate in order for President Biden to sign it. This comes as the bill just barely managed to make it through the House due to a suspension of the rules, which requires a House bill to gain 2/3 support from the House to be passed. This left the future of the bill uncertain for most of Tuesday night until Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries indicated that the Democrats would support the bill. This is the first major win for the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. The spending bill is what is described as a, quote, laddered resolution, meaning that some sectors of the federal government, such as agriculture and transportation, will be funded through January, while others, such as military, will be funded through February. The bill is expected to pass through the Senate easily, though the upper chamber was recently rocked by threats of violence between senators on Tuesday night.
If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your solution every
Hold it. No, sit down. Sit down. Okay. You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Act it.
Despite the victory, Johnson has left himself vulnerable to attack, as his cooperation with the Democrats is the same action that resulted in former Speaker Kevin McCarthy being removed from office. President Biden has indicated that he will sign the spending bill if it passes through the Senate, officially avoiding a government shutdown. And now I'm going to send it back to Johnny and Jordan in the studio.
Thanks, Jayce. And last week I covered Ashley Hinson, and this week, Johnny, I think you have some candidates you'd like us to look at.
Yes, Jordan. This week we're going from the incumbent to the challengers. Last week's incumbent, Ashley Hinson, will be going toe-to-toe with the Democratic runner, which will either be Sarah Corkery or Jacob Whelan for Iowa's 2nd Congressional District seat. Starting off with Corkery, she is from Cedar Rapids, a mother of 3, one of which has a disability, and she has fought and won her battle against breast cancer twice. Her and her husband own a small business, and she has been working 8 to 5 jobs for 25 years. The reason she's running against Hinson is because she's felt the incumbent has not done the right things to improve the overall health of Iowa. Points such as mental health, healthcare, and gun legislation are strong points Corkery holds against Hinson. On the other hand, Jacob Whelan is also running for the Democratic slot to challenge Hinson. Whelan, a graduate of Drake University and now resides in Independence, Iowa. He's also a grad student here at the University of Iowa. Whelan has experience around politics, being a campus organizer for Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential bid and a field organizer for Sidney Axne's campaign during last year's election. He's also served as a field organizer for Thomas Heckroth's run for Congress in 2018. The primary between these two will be on June 5th of 2024, and the winner will face off against Hinson on November 5th, 2024. Now, Jordan, presidential candidates are continuing to make their way to Iowa. I will be covering some of them on Friday, and they seem to stay busy.
Yeah, and as the caucuses continue to creep up on us, more and more of these candidates are going to keep coming to the state. And we're going to send it back to Cara Dulin, who has more updates on these candidates.
Thanks, Jordan. And earlier I said Trump's legal battles were not slowing down. Well, neither is his campaign. Trump will be in Iowa this Saturday for a Team Trump Iowa Commit to Caucus event in Fort Dodge. And he's not the only candidate making his way to Iowa this week. Vivek Ramaswamy will also be attending over 20 events in the next 2 weeks to endorse his campaign, including 8 in between this Friday and Sunday. Asa Hutchinson will also be hosting 12 events from Wednesday to Friday, and Nikki Haley will attend 4 town hall events on Thursday and Friday. And even though Haley's got fewer campaign events lined up this week than her competitors, she's still been pretty busy. On Tuesday, she unveiled over 70 new endorsements. Endorsers include state representatives, business leaders, and former political operatives. These endorsements may prove vital for Haley as she's locked in a battle with Ron DeSantis, who just last week was endorsed by Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds. And one name that's noticeably absent from the Iowa lineup is Tim Scott, who abruptly dropped out of the presidential race on Sunday. He made the announcement on Fox News Channel's Sunday Night in America, and a move that shocked even some of his campaign staff. This leaves 8 Republican candidates remaining, and despite Trump's legal troubles, he is still the frontrunner in Iowa. Johnny and Jordan, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Cara. And as falsehoods run rampant throughout our country, it's important to have someone to keep us in check.
Yes, Jordan, and that's why us here at The Update, we have Jayce, who's going to rejoin us from the newsroom with some pieces of fake information that he's going to debunk.
That's right, Johnny, and I'd like to start off with a claim going around on social media centering on Kentucky's election last week. These posts claim that a gas leak at a Kentucky polling place was a diversion meant to add more votes for winning candidate Andy Bashar. In reality, Louisville Gas and Electric confirmed that reports of a gas leak were genuine, and after a 30-minute closure to address the issue, a judge ordered the place to stay open for 30 extra minutes to accommodate for voters. And next, we're going to take a look at Pennsylvania's elections. Claims are circulating that the voting machines in the state were rigged to swap votes to Democratic candidates. However, the only known case of this happening was acknowledged as a clerical error by the county, and no other examples of this occurring have come to light. And finally, we're going all the way back to Europe, specifically Ukraine. Posts surrounding the Ukraine war claim that President Zelensky has surrendered and that Russia's year-long invasion of Ukraine has succeeded. There has been no evidence to back up this claim, and besides a Russian strike near Odessa, the war remains at a standstill for the most part. And now I'm going to send it back to Johnny and Jordan in the studio.
Thanks, Jayce. And Jordan, I had for your consideration last week. You have it this week. What do you want to talk to people about?
Well, Johnny, recently labor rights have been at the forefront of the news. From the recent Screen Actors Guild strike to the United Auto Workers strike, this year has seen workers of all kinds band together for better pay and working conditions, among other things. In fact, just last semester in Iowa City, Starbucks employees at the Clinton Street location were the first of its kind in Iowa to unionize after they felt that they were treated unfairly by managers. And unions are a crucial part of winning workers' rights beyond just higher pay. They help to gain workers' health insurance, safety in the workplace, protection from discrimination at work, and compensation if a worker happens to get injured on the job. And these are only a few of the things that unions do. And as more and more companies try to union bust and swindle workers out of fair deals, they must realize that the workers are the most essential part of their operations. These employees are the lifeblood of their businesses, and without them, they wouldn't see the profits that they do. Just last year, General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis, the big three North American automakers, combined to make a profit of $31 billion, an increase of 91% from the year prior. And you don't just conjure that much money out of thin air. You're doing it through the production of your employees. And as labor struggles continue to evolve, it's important that unions across the country realize their worth and continue to press for the things they deserve.
Thank you for that, Jordan, and thank you for tuning into the update tonight, where you'll find all your news and politics.
Tune in next week for more updates from the local level to the nationwide level.
It will be 2 weeks, as next week it will be Thanksgiving, and we all hope you guys have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks. From the update, I'm Johnny Valtman.
And I'm Jordan Tovar. Have a wonderful night.